A section of this video is sponsored by Gameplete. Hello, this is Deadite, and let's check out some recent titles that you might have missed in this entry of Games Under the Radar for June 2019. The following titles had some kind of standout element for me, be it a unique gameplay design, cool art style, interesting premise, or something else that really made it stand out amongst the rest. I'm honestly not too picky on genre, and naturally like to play a little of everything I can each month because it's quite simple really. I just like good video games and I endlessly try to seek them out. Now without further ado, let's dive into these games. Fell Seal Arbiter's Mark is one of the most unassuming indie games I've seen come out this year and really nails the core aspects of what made the tactics RPG genre so popular years ago. Fell Seal doesn't waste your time with a bunch of useless abilities and jobs that you may or may not use. Every advancement you make to your roster feels impactful and rewarding here. It's hard to balance making debuffs, status effects, and other elements seem just as useful in certain situations as opposed to just dishing out raw damage, but Fell Seal pulls this off quite well. This is all further bolstered by the rock-solid and clever AI opponents that you face off against. I have never really noticed the AI in a tactics RPG until playing this because they would regularly do things that seemed more in line with the tactics of a real opponent. They would strategically gang up on key units, dynamically push allies off platforms, and regularly punish you for clumping up your team. Fell Seal is definitely a must-play for anyone who has any kind of love or reverence for the Final Fantasy Tactics or Tactics Ogre series, and is ultimately one of the best tactics RPGs in years. Dark Devotion is yet another entry in the popular 2D Souls-like genre, but I just so happen to still love that style of game. This is not to say that Dark Devotion doesn't have its own unique ideas, because it definitely does. You actually lose all your gear upon death here, but the further you progress, the more and more armors and weapons you unlock over time to then be able to re-equip from your blacksmith in town to better prepare you for the next journey. That means that yes, you might have lost the majority of your cool armor and weapons, but you can always start anew with those core items that you permanently unlocked, which I found make you shake up your build more often than what usually happens in this style of game, where you find your specific setup you like and just stick with it for huge chunks of time. You will often feel trapped in these drab dungeons for long periods of time, and it's quite difficult to remember where exactly you've been, but this all goes to help with that rewarding sense of dread that makes the victories feel all the more satisfying. This entry is brought to you by Gameplete, allowing me to briefly showcase their pixel-infused card battling RPG, Triple Fantasy. During battles, which you'll be doing a lot of, your hero units all get played in groups of 3s and can be swapped out with any of your reserves during your turn. Each of these hero cards have individual damage numbers, healing values, leader skills that are dictated by the 9 job classes, and all come in 4 different rarities from common all the way to legend. The real nuance of this battle system really starts to get introduced when you learn to mix and match your card's elements, classes, and job types to maximize your combo multiplier for huge damage or helpful last-second recovery. This helps to give the game a nice retro-style RPG challenge that makes it feel less like you're just going through the motions and more like you're surviving your way through each dungeon. Triple Fantasy also just got a brand new arena and raid mode added in, and the game is a fairly small download size on Android and iOS if you want to give it a try. Triple Fantasy is free, and download links can be found in the video description, as well as in my pinned comment down below. Descenders is a roguelite downhill freeriding game. Yeah, I never thought I'd be saying that combination for sure, but surprisingly it works. Descenders is all about surviving through procedurally generated downhill levels filled with sharp turns, ramps, hazards, and even boss jumps. How exactly is a ramp a boss? I had the same question, but they find a way to really make it work because you can't just survive from any amount of unrealistic impact. You must hit these jumps just right and land appropriately to absorb the impact, which makes for an interesting challenge. If you enjoy the difficulty of roguelites and chipping away at progression, but you want to try something where gravity itself is your opponent, definitely take a look at Descenders. Shakedown Hawaii is a giant homage to the early days of Grand Theft Auto. You jump from mission to mission quite rapidly here, and the designs are so strange and varied, it often feels like WarioWare got a crime-infused spin-off and is now having a hard time coping with modern society. The core focus of Shakedown Hawaii is to pretty much take over the entire island by slowly buying out every soon-to-fail business you can pressure into negotiation. To do this, you'll need cash, which is your prime motivator for your criminal activities and shady business practices. The overall story is actually surprisingly comical and pokes fun at nearly every convenience we now take for granted. The core gameplay might be somewhat simplistic, but like I mentioned before, just give it a minute or two and you'll be on to the next crazy mission where you'll be doing something truly unexpected, which makes it hard to not just do one more mission. Crystal Crisis is a competitive puzzle mashup with Puyo Puyo style gameplay in a similar vein to Super Puzzle Fighter. You must match and strategically combo same colored squares to build up your burst meter to either use offensively to mess with your opponent to send them trash, or defensively to help clean up your own side. Each character has entirely different burst abilities and attack patterns, which essentially means how their attack blocks will land on the opponent's board, adding some interesting depth. You can head online to test your skills or chip away at the story mode to unlock the diverse roster of characters mostly hailing from various indie games. You should know just by looking at this if this is your kind of thing, and hopefully Crystal Crisis gets a cool little competitive scene because I would love to watch some matches.
Ready? Fight!
Hell is Other Demons is a super fast level-to-level gauntlet of death and, well, demons. The controls are super tight, and although I was shocked at first that you can't shoot in all directions, I soon grew to love how satisfying it was to kite enemies around the screen, slam on their heads, and realize how such a simple design decision forced you to adopt different tactics as opposed to being able to too easily blast everything around you. The power-ups you can buy can be mixed and matched in interesting ways, and offer just enough advantage to make you always hungry for more currency to buy more. Hell is Other Demons feels like an arcade classic that knows exactly how to deliver on satisfying core gameplay. Lapis Cross Labyrinth is a hyper-speed side-scrolling action RPG where you take in a stack of warriors to take on hordes of enemies. If I could easily sum up the game as quickly as possible, it's essentially the slot machine equivalent of a video game because it goes out of its way to shower you in visual and auditory stimulation at nearly every moment. The bombastic nature of the game does make it somewhat difficult to avoid damage at times simply because of the explosion of color everywhere. There's gear to be found and some challenges that await you, but the game is quite simplistic at its core, but sometimes as human beings we just need a chill out kind of game, and Lapis Cross Labyrinth is certainly that. And those are just some of the games I've been playing and enjoying on the side here at Boomstick Gaming, and I'm glad to be able to showcase them here for you all. If you happen to enjoy this Games Under the Radar series, please give me your feedback on what you'd like to see improved or changed, because I've been trying it a little differently each time, and since this series is primarily about you, your feedback helps to shape it the most. If you happen to like this style of content and you want it to continue, consider subscribing here to Boomstick Gaming, and also follow me on Twitter at DeaditeAGK. A special thanks to Gameplete for sponsoring a section of this video, and again you can find links to download their game Triple Fantasy in the video description as well as in my pinned comment down below. As always, this has been Deadite, and thanks for watching.